Hey guys, Steve, and this week, I'm going to be talking about recruitment requirements for captains and first officers under 135 and 121, and also a little bit about how to get your ATP, restricted ATPs, and all that. So let's get into it. Topics today: acquiring an ATP or restricted ATP, captains under 121 and 135, and first officers under 121 and 135. So we'll start out simple, relatively speaking. Captains or the PIC under 121 require 1,500 hours total time with airline transport pilot certificate and appropriate type rating and current first class medical certificate. And for reference, I have 6123, which is the Airman Medicals, and 121-436, which is the PIC requirements for 121, or pilot qualifications rather. And in addition to that, we also have to have a minimum of 1,000 flight hours in air carrier operations in order to act as a PIC under that part. And something interesting that we can get into here is what's called 121 qualifying time. So I kind of tried to break it down underneath that as serving as SIC in Part 121 operations, but also you can serve as PIC in jet operations under 135 or a commuter airline, such as if you've ever heard of Cape Air, they have a 121 qualifying time program in their commuter airline operation. Or any combination thereof. So when I first signed up for the airline, we had to fill out a form detailing what kind of service we've been in prior to Envoy or the 121 operation. And there you could list out your fractional ownership 135 flight time, or like I said a minute ago, the commuter airline, or if you've served as first officer in any other 121 operation there. So yeah, and in addition, military pilots, they kind of get a shortcut. PIC time from serving in the military up to 500 hours can be credited toward the 1,000 hour requirement, as long as those hours were obtained in a fixed wing, multi-engine, turbine-powered airplane, requiring more than one pilot. So yeah. I also want to throw in there PIC recency of experience. Everybody knows this: 6157, 91-103, and of course the new reg 121-439. For PIC under 121. To act as PIC while carrying passengers, the PIC must perform 3 takeoffs and landings within the preceding 90 days in the same category, class, and type of aircraft to be flown. That's important. That's something that a lot of people kind of leave off there. It's category, class, and type if applicable. And we can see now in this situation where type would be important because let's say in my case, for example, the 170 is the type. If I were to fly a, turbine-powered twin-engine jet of some sort, it would not count, right? So I could still fly, let's say, a Citation CJ3 or something like that, and I would not be legal under this requirement. And under 121, all flight crew members, typo there, are subject to landing currency whether passengers are on board or not. So that means ferry flights, you still must be landing current. And actually, if you're lucky and you get away with not working for a long time, they may require you at your airline to come back and do supervised simulator training. Or you can have an observer on the line with you to do your landings, I believe. So yeah, you still have to be careful about your landing currency. The PIC must also become familiar with all available information for safe operation of the flight prior to departure. So that's under 91-103. And I think the tolerance there is 90 days. If the PIC hasn't been over the route or flown the route in that time, then they must refamiliarize themselves with the information. And that, usually just be done in the form of a dispatch release, which I talked about in my last presentation. Now we got first officers, or the SIC, under 121. It's a little bit simpler. SIC requirements, 6123, that's for the medical, 159, 160, 67, and 430, 121, 436. An airline transport pilot certificate or airline transport pilot with restricted privileges, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. with the appropriate type rating and a current second class medical. So now it drops down from first to second. And remember, if you're under 40, that's going to be an examination interval of 1 year. And if you're over 40, it goes down to 6 months. For that, a lot of airlines, at least in my case, I've seen that they still require everybody to maintain a first class. And sometimes I've heard of guys developing a condition of some sort which disqualifies them from a first class, but they can still maintain a second class, which actually does make them legal to serve in the right seat. So they can still continue to do that. Otherwise, you must maintain a first class. SIC under Part 121 is required to perform the 3 takeoffs and landings in the same category, class, and type of aircraft to be flown in the preceding 90 days. So they're under the same landing currency requirements as that of the PIC. Now we got captains under 135, and this is, I split these up, VFR and IFR operations. I figured that would be the easiest way to do it. This is for 135, 243, 293, and 299. So you need a commercial certificate with instrument rating and multi-engine class ratings as applicable to the operation. So if you're going to fly a multi-engine, you got to have that. And current second class medical. For day VFR operations and single engine reciprocating airplanes, instrument rating is not required. Instrument current and line checked. You have to be trained and line checked by the company that you're employed by within the last 12 months. And 500 hours total time comprised of at least 100 hours cross-country time, and at least 25 of those need to be at night in order to be VFR only, PIC under 135. And then, of course, a little bit deeper, a little bit more complicated, we have the IFR operations. So there's a few companies out there that I can think of that immediately come to mind when I think of this. Actually, I looked at applying to some of those. Plain Sense, which they operate single engine turbine PC-12s, things like that, and they required your PIC hire to have these qualifications here for IFR. So commercial instrument and multi-engine ratings as applicable to operation, and a current second class medical certificate. And then your first hour, your total time actually comes into play here at 1,200 total time, 500 hours cross country, 100 flight time at night, and 25 hours night cross-country flight time, and then 75 hours of actual or simulated instrument flight time, of which 50 must be in an actual airplane flying. Instrument checked and current, I believe, instrument checked within the last 6 months and line checked within the last 12. And again, that'll come from your training department from your company. And for commuter operations, an ATP with first-class medical certificate is required and IOE completed. So IOE stands for Initial Operating Experience. I believe that is outlined in 135-299, but I'm not certain. But that's in the regs as well, the requirements for providing IOE, what a company has to hold you to and whatnot. Then we got the first officers under 135. SIC requirements for 35, 245, 135, 329, and 293. Commercial instrument multi-engine ratings as applicable to operation, and current second-class medical certificate. Instrument current and checked in the aircraft within the last 12 months, and that means trained and checked in right seat responsibilities by the company within the last 12 months. And sometimes you'll run into the situation where a charter company decides to use 2 captains, so essentially 2 PIC operators or 2 PIC pilots, but stick one of them in the right seat for a specific flight. And that's okay. That's actually pretty common practice. However, they need to make sure, in order to be completely in line with the regulations, they have to be trained in right seat responsibilities, like I mentioned before. And logging SIC time. I wanted to mention this so people don't get confused, because as an instructor, I ran into a few situations where students maybe took the right seat on somebody's jet that they knew or something like that, and put that in their logbook as SIC and counted it toward their total time. Which in some cases is fine, but usually you have to be an employee of that company and that airplane has to require 2 pilots per its type certificate data sheet. So if the airplane does not require a second in command, then most of the time you cannot log that time. And that's kind of what I'm saying here is SIC time may be logged in an aircraft that does not require more than 1 flight crew member if that pilot is employed by a 135 operator and is trained under the operator's SIC professional development program. And that's outlined in the regs as well, what a professional development program requires. And a few of those things are like emergency procedures, company procedures, things like that, SOPs. And those are all required. Usually you take a course and a test and stuff like that to be accepted into one of these professional development programs under a 135 operator for that. Okay. And finally, let's get into the ATP, what we're all looking for. So I put it out here as the Part 61 route first because that's the longest. That's what I ended up doing. I did attend Central Texas College for a while, hoping to get a half restricted ATP, but I ended up moving on a little bit early, and I did the Part 61 route. So a person who is applying for an airline transport pilot certificate must have at least 1,500 hours total time. That includes all of these requirements here. So 500 cross-country flight time, 100 hours night flight time, which up to there's a part of this regulation where up to 25 hours of those night hours can be substituted with night landings, and you can look at the specifics for that. I forgot to mention 61-159 if you want to know. 50 hours in the class of airplane for rating SOT, 25 hours of which can be part of a 121, 135, 141, or 142 training program with an FFS, up to 100 hours total. And what I mean by that is 100 hours of your full flight simulator time can be counted toward the total time requirement. So you got to be careful of that. And then 25 hours specifically for the category or the class of airplane rather in a full flight simulator. So the airline actually uses that loophole. If you look at the fine print, they actually ask you to, if you're getting ready to go to an airline, they actually allow you to go to training with 960 total time because they know that you will get that 50 hours or the 25 hours rather in the airline's full flight simulator. So I guess 975 really, or 1475 rather. Okay, 75 hours instrument flight time under simulator actual conditions, no more than 25 in a full flight simulator or flight training device. So that'd be your Redbird or other certified flight training device, which needs an LOA, by the way. 250 hours flight time as PIC of an airplane or under supervision of a PIC. SIC time logged while under a 135 professional development program counts toward the total time requirement of this FAR. So back to our last slide. And then some flight engineer time may also be logged toward the total time requirement of 1,500. And you can reference 61-159 for the specifics on that. But I don't think there are many flight engineers around these days. All right, now we're talking about restricted. The first type I wanted to mention was military pilot at 750 hours. And all that pilot would need to do is make sure they don't have any disciplinary action against them in being discharged from the armed forces, and then just prove that you attended an undergraduate pilot training school from which you received a rating as a military pilot. And that's really all it says in that section. I'm not an expert on the military stuff, but correct me if I'm wrong there. Then we got the 1,000-hour requirement, and this is your 4-year degree 141 program. I taught at a Oklahoma State University for a good long while. I did a little bit of multi-engine there, and instrument flying, and this is kind of what we were dealing with typically. So it's very, very structured. You must do everything. It actually could save you some time. I know that at least our program at Oklahoma State University, we were allowing, if you did it the right way, and at the minimum hours, which not a lot of people did. But you could obtain your commercial multi-engine certificate at 180 hours instead of the required 250. And I'll get into that right here. You must hold a bachelor's degree with aviation major from an approved institution of higher education and have completed 60 semester credit hours of aviation-related coursework. In addition, you got to hold a commercial pilot certificate with airplane category and instrument rating where ground school and flight training was completed at the approved institution under an approved Part 141 curriculum, and present your transcripts for proof at your check ride for your ATP. In addition to that, if your school has a training agreement with another school, such as I'll give you an example. In Texas, you attend Baylor University, but obviously Baylor doesn't have a airport attached to it. So where these guys going to do their flight training, right? They have to go to TSTC, Texas State Technical College, right next door, and make use of their program and aircraft. And that would be you can do your flight training at the institution where you got your degree, or an institution that has a agreement with that institution. So that's an example of that. Anything else I need to mention here? Everything has to be done exactly how the 141 curriculum is structured. So I'm talking about down to the 10th of an hour on flight instruction lessons and whatnot. And like I said, it's possible, but not a lot of people do it at these 141 programs. You could get your ratings a lot earlier because you're not exactly held to the same flight time regulations as a unrestricted ATP at 1,500 hours. And kind of the same thing here, except you're going to be held to 1,250 hours with 30 semester credit hours of aviation-related coursework, and also hold the same ratings. Make sure your flight training was done at the school and ground training, and then have those transcripts ready to present to the APD at your ATP check ride, right? So 141, more of the story is a lot more structured, and it's under a whole lot more scrutiny. But it could help you in the long run, get you your ratings faster, and get you to the airline faster. So that's great. These are all the regulations that I used. Just a whole lot of pilot command qualifications and stuff like that from 135 and 121. Of course, the Part 61 stuff as well. So medicals and whatnot. Thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you have any questions.